Hello listeners, listening to 18 Minutes with Satyal and Silwal. I'm Satyal.
And I'm Silwal, and we are a weekly podcast from the Himalayas.
When it's Tuesday and it's 7:30, you know it's time for perspectives, conversations and stories.
64th episode. Woo! Alright, so we were just counting out the views and it's been really low, but we don't give a shit about it.
Are all those 560 people sleeping or what's happening? I just don't get it.
They started hating Satyal a lot because he started doing mentorship and all these things, and they were like, I can never do better than this guy.
Well, but one good thing happened last week. We went to the bloggers meet, Rising Junkiri. We're one of the supporters of the program. We got to talk. Sara got to make fun of me, which he never backed out from. What's your reflection of the session? How did it go for you?
I think because it was a bloggers
although you showed up when the show ended.
really late, but you're a better judge of what happened prior to me reaching there. But I really enjoyed the atmosphere there, where people were showcasing their talents in forms of poems and their works, and we got to speak about our passion project, and hopefully someone did get motivated. And
I hear that has happened.
Yeah, so
because we met a couple of people who listened to us and they said this is exactly what we wanted to do, but then we hadn't actually done it. But then we told them how we've been doing this for 63 weeks and running, and probably they got inspired. So good luck to you guys. We really hope you get to do what you wanted to do.
Yeah, do it better than us. We've set a very low benchmark. We've set a very low benchmark.
Looking at the views, everyone's gonna be like, I can do better than them.
He says just try it.
These two idiots.
Yeah. So coming back to 64th episode. So for the last I have no idea on mathematics, but
44th,
54th,
and
now 64th. We've set a pattern where this is the quote-unquote series, and we just like to share our quotes away and critique on our quotes. So who wants to go first today?
I want to ask you one first.
God damn it.
Go with one. This is a book we talk very highly of, and this is a book you recommended. Didn't you? Siddhartha. It's a fantastic book. Recommended it to everyone. I have a couple of quotes and all of them are from Siddhartha. So, okay. Number one. Quote. What could I say to you that would be of value? Except that perhaps you seek too much. That as a result of your seeking, you cannot find. Unquote. I know that is a hard one, so I have it right in front of you. Before you begin, I'm expecting some big explanations from you because you recommended this book to me, so
don't put pressure on me.
I'm presuming that you have read this book thoroughly and you have your own versions to what Siddhartha means through this book.
Well, firstly, I just want to give a shout out. The way I recommended you Siddhartha, I was recommended Siddhartha by Prince. So I like when there's a chain of books, and if
you're wondering who Prince is, go and listen to that episode where the title is From India to Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know the number of the episode, but
yeah, you don't need to listen to him anyways. But I like when there's a chain of books that have passed from one person to the other, and hopefully we've inspired someone else to read a few other books. Just putting this quote aside, Juliana sent me a message. She sent me a picture of Tuesdays with Maury. And she said, I'm finally getting to read this. So I was like, 63 episodes in, we've done something to at least start that.
Yeah, definitely. Maury would be proud.
Maury would definitely be proud. So Siddhartha is this journey of Siddhartha, not Gautam Buddha, but it's a very...
People actually mistake
there's
Siddhartha
a lot
for
of
Gautam Buddha.
Yeah.
Gautam Buddha is actually a character inside the story itself, so he's not Gautam Buddha.
Exactly. So what happens in this journey of Siddhartha is he's trying to find his answers, or in terms of his life and everything, and at one point he does meet Gautam Buddha as well, but Siddhartha is like, your teachings
I'm gonna learn on my own. So screw you.
In the most thuggish way possible. I was like so apart from that, this journey that Siddhartha takes in, what I realized from this book was everyone has their own journey to live, and you cannot necessarily say something to someone else who's living their own journey or their own life and be like, you can do this better or you can do this worse. So for me, I will learn my experiences, and probably this is a very naive way to think, but maybe by the end, when I'm about to die, I'll realize a few things in life, and that'll be my.
But that will be your own realizations, right?
That will be my own realizations. I will not have learned it from other people, and you cannot necessarily learn from other people as well sometimes. So, coming back to this quote, that would be value now. So. Perhaps if we are looking too much, or we are seeking something that we really, really want, and as a result, so basically, if you were to have like the most easiest way to look at it would be, if you keep on searching for it, it's more harder to find. It's like the butterfly. The more you try to grab it, the more it's gonna fly away. The more still you're gonna be, the butterfly is gonna come to you. So sometimes it's we make that effort to go and try to seek for things. Now, when I say seeking for things, I think this in terms of wants and needs and desires. So the more you want it, the harder it might be sometimes for you to get it. So I would just take a step back, sit back, relax, and hopefully things that are meant to happen will happen eventually. These are the things that I would get out of it.
Okay, I want to add my perspective to this. For me, there's a very fine distinction between seeking and finding. So what's saying here is, if you're seeking, you already have that thing in your mind as to what you want to get. So when trying to get what you already think you want, you lose out on something that might actually be more valuable than you could have ever imagined. So there's a difference between when you seek, you already have an end goal in mind, whereas when you're trying to find yourself, then you're more open and you're more likely to end up in beautiful destination. So that would be the way I look at it. So I'm sure our friends listening are like, wow, these guys are like so deep today. But this book is fantastic. I really recommend this to anyone listening, because this might be a little heavy for you at the start, but I guess this is for people who really want to find themselves, who at this juncture in life where they're lost.
I think when I first recommended this book for you, I did tell you that it would be that next step in your life.
It was
in order to search. And
I also remember that time when I was actually traveling at that time, and he recommended this book to me, and the first 15 pages I could not understand, and I wrote to him saying, dude, I don't think this book is for me. And he said, just power through the first 15 pages, and because it did not really make sense then, but then after that it got so much better. So don't freak out if you don't understand the first 15 minutes, or maybe it was just me, I just wasn't wise enough.
So yeah, that happens. Wow, we've powered through 8 minutes just talking about the first quote.
But I'm liking the conversation. It's like going really well.
So we can do it in our own ways. We don't have a producer, hanging a gun over
no
our
sponsor. Nobody likes us anyway. So, and those who do, they don't mind. So, what's your quote?
Okay, so I will be a little. The first quote I'll say is not at all serious at all. Like complete opposite to what you just gave me. Life is too short to be serious all the time. So if you cannot laugh at yourself, call me. I'll laugh at you.
Okay, so what do I have to say to that? There's this philosophy that I've been following, and I've been encouraging all my mentees, because a lot of them come to me to gain some confidence in speaking and in expressing themselves, right? So what I say is, every day, because I do this every day and I don't really tell things that I don't personally do myself. So during my meditation practice, the last 1 minute is always to laugh at my anxieties the day prior. Okay. So whatever things I was anxious about, was nervous about, which in retrospect does not make any sense at all, I will laugh at myself for having those anxieties in the first place. So what I believe is, if you can laugh at yourself, then other people will not be able to laugh at you. They can only laugh with you. So that anxiety is lost. So they will not be able to laugh at you. They will laugh with you. So maybe this phone call is, if I'm already laughing at myself, then you can only join me. You cannot laugh at me. So that is my mantra of gaining confidence. So that's the way I would look at it. How does that work for you?
Because I don't necessarily like to take things seriously at all, and sometimes when I see people taking life too seriously in terms of their dreams and their happiness and their next car, or when they're not getting it.
Minimalism, go ahead.
Yeah. And plus, I call myself the failed comedian, where when I make a joke, I miss the mark, and I just do not have that ending of a joke. So instead of people laughing with me, they're laughing at me, and at the end goal is that I made the other person laugh. regardless of how I did it. So, there's no point in taking yourself seriously at all, because you're just flesh and bones, and one day you're food for worms. So.
Definitely. And one thing that our listeners will definitely like about you would be the way you laugh. And they've commented on that. They're like, Silwal laughs more than he speaks. So you have that classic laughter about you where it feels like their ear's gonna rip off after you laugh. So.
Well, sorry, not sorry.
and this is something that really works for us, because back in November 2016, when we were hosting the National Speaking Championship, although both of us were really excited and we did it because we wanted to do it, our last words I remember before going on stage was, because we had this theatrics and we had this whole drama plan. I remember you saying, half of the crowd's gonna hate us anyway, so our job is to make the other half laugh at us. Probably laugh with us, but at the very least laugh at us, so that'll be fine. And that's how we got on board, and we really enjoyed that time together. So yeah, we also do that. And just look at the podcast, we don't take ourselves seriously at all. And we've in fact done that episode too, the 10th Tuesday, I believe. So
we're not taking ourselves seriously.
Go check that out if you haven't already. Alright, so let me move on to the next one, because I have all these serious quotes lined up. I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to talk about Siddharth. So this is my next quote. Might be related with the way you explained the last one, but it's doing it nonetheless. And I quote, "It is not for me to judge another man's life. I must judge, I must choose, I must spurn purely for myself alone," unquote.
So the book, the quote that has come from Siddhartha once again, about you cannot judge someone. We've talked about this in the last 12 minutes or so. It makes sense for me, but a person will judge, a person will have to choose, a person will have to we make assumptions and whole lot of things, but you cannot assume someone else's life, regardless of how clearly you see them or how well you think you know them. The only person you actually can judge and have assumptions about is yourself, and yourself only. You cannot look into the other person, regardless of how well they dress or how poor they dress, how beautiful they look or how ugly they look. So you cannot be the judge and jury for other people's lives. The only person that you can actually hold accountable for is yourself. And while doing that as well, I think there's a lot of no pressure on living your life, because you'll be the one who will be critiquing yourself on your decisions and everything. So for me, it's purely for myself and myself alone. I'm not looking at someone else's.
Is there a specific formula that you use? Because like you said, it's very true. It's the propensity to judge is just so damn high. So is there any reason you do it?
Judging is a part of human nature. We will judge someone. We will make assumptions, because if you see someone who you've never met before, or there's a mystery there, you'd want to know what's behind that mystery, what's behind that person, what ticks that person. And by just looking at that person or just looking at the way they do things, you have this propensity of imagining their backstory and their actions and all. And that is perfectly fine. But just because you have to realize that there is a biasness that's already creeped in, and the assumptions that you're making are at the end assumptions. You cannot base your actions and your motivations based on your assumptions about the other person. So while you're working as well, sometimes your assumption works. Sometimes a thief is a thief. But a lot of times, when you have already understood that this is yourself and you cannot essentially make decisions based on your assumptions about the other person, it makes things easier. You can segregate or differentiate this line about everything that I'm thinking about this person is coming from me. I've not seen that coming from that person. That is my version of this character, just because I don't like the mystery behind this person.
Right, definitely. So one tip I wanted to share with everybody is working for me is, this is something that I've learned recently, is if you have to deal with somebody you don't necessarily like, then just imagine that particular day is their last day on earth. So if you think of it that way, if it's their last day on earth, then you'd probably be a little more kinder than you usually are. So that's a little life hack that I use, just so that I can get along with people I don't necessarily get along with that well.
You're already imagining death and the worst.
So just be kind to them. This is like the last day I have to deal with you, so I might as well send you off peacefully. Okay, next up.
Now
I guess we've done slightly lesser quotes than other time, but I think we've gone into the depth of it. So this is a different kind, and I think I'm liking this one.
Okay, I quote, I do think and write a lot about you, but you just don't deserve to know it. End quote.
It looks like a failed relationship.
Again, always.
Always. But then not necessarily writing it for the other person, but you can always look back at your own writings and see how you've evolved over time. So at any given moment when you write, you're writing your mental processes then. 2 years down the lane, you can look back and say, look at how idiotic you were, or how wise you were even 2 years back. So it doesn't necessarily have to be about the other person, is what I believe, because it looks like the person is going through a lot of heartbreak and wants the other person to know it, but at the same time doesn't feel like they deserve to know it at all.
Yeah, so I think this is someone like, I have candy but I don't want to share it with you. It's something like that, right? Where they want to tell you that they've written about you, but they don't necessarily want to share it.
So is it in a way of saying that I've moved on, but then I'm still writing about you, so I just don't want you to get the idea that I'm still writing about you, whereas in essence, I've actually moved on and I'm writing about moving on.
I think like one version of it that I can think of is, and listeners, you can chime in with your own perspective in this one, because perspectives, conversations, stories. After all, what I think is when people write their emotions down, it's like they don't want to give the other person the satisfaction that they still think about them. So by essentially writing about their relationship or that person, they think that they're giving power to that person, because even though they've long gone and probably they've moved on as well, sometimes it's like you've already moved on, but because you've written it down or you've shared it somewhere, if that person comes back and reads it, they think that they're still
vulnerable.
And sometimes people are too shitty to write about. Like, even though if you write about them, you would never want to share it, because you don't want to give that power to the other person into thinking or judging. So in the end, you yourself are judging about what other person will be thinking about you. But if you really want to write, it would be better to just write it. Not necessarily you deserve or that person deserves to read it, but maybe we can read it.
Okay, I guess there's a backstory to this, so we're going to go off air. I'm going to talk to Silwal about this. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. And one last thing.
It's never too late to quote.